Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, and today it is another Tag Tuesday. And so I have been tagged in another tag. This one is the Muppet Tag. Love the Muppets and love this tag. This tag was created by Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic. And I was tagged by Gavin at Genre Books. And so, yeah, I would love to get started. Love the Muppets. Probably A Muppet Christmas Carol is my favorite, or at least my most watched Muppet movie, though I do think Muppet Treasure Island is kind of an underrated masterpiece. But that isn't this tag. We'll get into this tag. Okay, so the first prompt in this tag is Kermit. Name a book that has a great leader. And, you know, this is one where there's a number of answers I think I could give for this prompt. It's hard not to list a bunch of Lord of the Rings characters, especially for this prompt and for a couple other prompts. But I think for this one, I am going to go with Dr. Mensa from the Murderbot Diaries. I think Dr. Mensa is a particularly good leader because she manages to balance idealism with practicality and common sense in such a way that she can be both inspiring at sort of a high conceptual level, but also, like, she's very good at thinking up practical plans and actually doing the nitty-gritty work of being a leader and helping people figure out where to go and what to do and how to get through problems. So I really like Dr. Mensa as a character, and I think she is a really great leader. Prompt number 2 is Fozzie Bear. Name a book that makes you laugh. And there, again, this is another one that I could give a lot of answers for, because I like a funny book, and I do have a very particular kind of sense of humor where, you know, I have very specific kinds of comedic or satiric writers that just tend to do it for me. But I am going to go with a book that I am currently rereading because I have been having such a good time with it and laughing so much while I read it, and that is Emma by Jane Austen. I'm rereading it for Jane Austen July, and as I said in my Jane Austen July TBR video, I do think Emma is a very, very funny book, and in my reread, I'm about a third of the way through it. I just got through Mr. Elton's proposal to Emma on Christmas Eve, and it's so funny. Jane Austen is so astute and such a great observer of people's foibles and little quirks that just are often very silly, but they still feel very real, even as they're often being very silly. And it's just very, very fun, and I'm just laughing a lot as I reread this book. So that one, I feel like I just had to do an immediate one because I was just, reading some last night and just laughing aloud to my best friend because I'm reading it to my best friend. We were just having a great time. Prompt number 3 is Animal. Name a book that is unpredictable. This one is a little bit of a trickier prompt for me, mostly because I feel like, on the surface at least, I don't read a lot of books that are really dependent on plot twists and turns, and so I don't read a lot of books that, at least on the surface of it, would be considered sort of unpredictable in that sense, just because the genres that I think are most associated with sort of unpredictability are kind of these more fast-paced, thrillery type books that are very heavy on plot and have a lot of these kinds of twists and turns and a shocker of an ending or whatever. And I don't actually read a lot of books like that. I enjoy a good thriller film, but I don't read a ton of them. But that's not to say that I don't read books that are unpredictable at all. I just have to think outside the box a little bit. And I think really the answer to this that really sort of stuck in my head is the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. When I started reading that trilogy, it's one of those series where all of the characters start out in a certain place, and if you're familiar with Robin Hobb, you know that all these characters are going to be on an arc of some kind, but I was really not sure where it was going to go. Right? If you had asked me when I first started reading the Live Ship Traders trilogy where I thought most of these characters would actually end up by the end of the series, I would have not known how to answer that. I would have, because there was just no way that I could have told you. So in that sense, I do think the Live Ship Trader trilogy was an especially unpredictable read for me, because I was definitely very much along for the ride, but I could not have told you where that ride was going to end for most of those main characters, and a lot of them ended up in rather surprising positions, I thought, by the end of the series. So there's my answer for that one. Number 4 is Statler and Waldorf. Name a book that had to quote-unquote win you over. This is another kind of tricky one for me, because to me this question implies that I'm reading books that I somehow don't think I will enjoy, and that's not really something I do very much of, right? I don't tend to read books that I think I'm going to not like. The vast majority of the books I read precisely because I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy them, and I go into pretty much every book I read assuming that I'm going to like it and wanting to like it. To me, this is another kind of tricky one to answer, because I'd have to probably go back to, my school days when I was having to do assigned reading for my coursework, to really talk about a book that I, wasn't sure about going into. However, once in a while, I do audit an online literature class just for the heck of it. Signum University is an online school institution of higher learning that allows you to do, they call them anytime audits. They basically record a bunch of their classes, pop them online, and for $150 or $200 a pop, you can audit one of their classes, and basically just do the reading and follow along with the lectures. And I've done that a couple of times, and there have been a couple of books in some of those classes that I've audited where I've been a little bit unsure of in the moment, but have maybe come out with an appreciation of, which is exactly what, for me, a literature class should do, right? Is even if I don't particularly enjoy the experience of reading a book for a literature class, I expect the class to be such that I come out of it with at least some appreciation of that novel, even if I didn't necessarily enjoy it. So I have a couple here that I can pull off my shelf, actually, that I was thinking of. I read My Name is Asher Lev by Chaim Potok. This is a sort of literary novel about a young boy being raised in an ultra-Orthodox Jewish community in New York, and he's sort of an artist. He's a bit of a misfit, and I wasn't sure about this when I read it, just because this kind of literary fiction tends to not be my thing, but I did end up being really invested in Asher Lev's story, and I did come out of it with a greater appreciation of what is going on here, what Potok is doing, and all of that. So this one is probably a good example of that. Another one would probably be C.S. Lewis, Till We Have Faces. So this is a mythical retelling of Cupid and Psyche, written, of course, by C.S. Lewis. This one I was a little unsure of, just because while I enjoy the Narnia books, I certainly do enjoy the Narnia books, I have them right here, they are definitely very heavy-handed, right? The Narnia books are very heavy-handed, Christian allegory. C.S. Lewis made no bones about the fact that that's what he was doing with the Narnia books, and I was not sure how it would work for me reading a mythical retelling from Lewis, knowing his perspective on things. But I did really enjoy Till We Have Faces, and in fact, Till We Have Faces is probably my favorite C.S. Lewis book that I have read. To be fair, I've not read his sci-fi trilogy, which might, that might unseat it whenever I get to that, but Till We Have Faces, as of right now, is my favorite C.S. Lewis that I've read, and yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed my time with this book, so this one did have to win me over a little, but it was very worth it. Prompt number 5 is Ernie. Name a character who is innocent or naive or both. And honestly, the first character for me that comes to mind when I think innocence is Sam Gamgee from The Lord of the Rings. I think Sam is an absolutely astounding example of a character who is truly good, truly innocent in the sense of just, he genuinely, I won't say he never loses hope, because I think there is a point at which Sam loses his hope, but he never loses his sense of, we have to finish this, we will finish this, we're going to finish this, and it's such that he is able to carry Frodo along, buoyed by his innocence and his, again, not naivete in a sort of negative sense of just like not being aware of the bad things in the world, but a naivete in the sense of still believing in the good of the world, even when he knows that a lot of things and a lot of people are bad. So that to me is Sam in a nutshell, is a kind of perfect innocence in his belief in good, in a capital G good. So yeah, that's my answer for that question. Prompt number 6 is Gonzo the Great. Name a book that defies conventional genre definitions or simple genre definitions. This one, again, I had a little bit of a hard time with, because most of what I read tends to be either pretty strictly genre fiction, like most of what I read tends to either fall pretty neatly into genre definitions, like fantasy or mystery or sci-fi or whatever, or it's just literary fiction, which is definitionally not a genre, right? It's just sort of a categorization that collects everything that doesn't fit into a neat genre. So this one seems to be kind of another sort of difficult one on the surface, but again, I think I'm going to have to sort of double up on a couple of these, because I do think Jane Austen, again, I'm reading a lot of Jane Austen stuff and Jane Austen related stuff, because it's Jane Austen July right now, and I do think Jane Austen to some extent kind of defies genre conventions. A lot of people think of her as a capital R romance writer, but of course she was not. And I don't mean that in a way as to like put down the romance genre. I mean that in the sense of literally the romance genre as we know it did not exist when Jane Austen was writing, right? She would not have understood herself as a romance author, and so I don't like to it's really hard to neatly categorize her into that, simply because the conventions of the genre did not arise until after she had passed away. And so it's impossible to actually thoroughly put her in the category of capital R romance as a genre. But she also doesn't really fit into most of the genre conventions that were popular at the time she was writing either, right? She Wasn't really writing historical fiction like Sir Walter Scott was. She wasn't writing gothic fiction like a lot of her other contemporaries were. She didn't fit neatly into those things. She was writing, you know, a mix of, yeah, some of the conventions that have become part of the romance genre are certainly there, right? So yes, you could say to some extent that, at least by our modern definition, some of her stuff is romance. But she was also doing a lot of social satire and commentary, and yes, she was political as well. There's a whole subsection of Jane Austen scholarship that's, you know, entirely devoted to the ways in which Jane Austen was political in her writing and the ways that she was making political commentary. So there's a lot of stuff there. It's funny, it's sometimes very dramatic, it's sometimes emotional, it can be sometimes melodramatic. She definitely plays with other genres at times in her writing, but it's very, it is very unique, I think. Jane Austen is a very unique figure, and the kind of writing that she was doing definitely defies genre conventions. So prompt number 7 is Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Name a book with a great concept. And honestly, the first one that comes to mind here is The Tainted Cup. It's a recent read for me, but it's just a great concept. The whole idea of doing a murder mystery / political thriller set in a very specific kind of secondary world fantasy that is so unique and so fresh. Like, just on paper, the one sentence concept of The Tainted Cup is just very unique and fresh and very cool. So yeah, I love it. It's great. Prompt number 8 is Dr. Teeth. Name a character that lights up a scene and makes you smile every time they show up on the page. And honestly, the first one that comes to mind for me right now is the Fool from the Realm of the Elderling series. I really love the Fool. Every time he shows up on the page, I love it. I'm just so happy. I'm so glad that the Fool exists. And I just really love him as a character, and everything that he says and everything that he does just is amazing and wonderful. And thank you, Robin Hobb, for creating the Fool, because I love the Fool. Prompt number 9 is Rolf the Dog. Name a character that is very laid back and copes with the chaos around them. And I was trying to think of a good example of this, and really the one that came to my mind, again, from a recent read, is just the Librarian from Discworld. You know, the Librarian is one of those characters who just kind of takes everything as it comes, and no matter what kind of nonsense is happening, and in the Discworld, boy, there's always a lot of nonsense happening. The Librarian can always be depended upon to be pretty well okay, and to come out of things just wanting a drink and possibly a banana, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I will say, just don't call him a monkey. Just a little warning. And prompt number 10 is The Muppets. Name a book that has a great found family. And I love a found family. I think there's a ton of really great found families out there. Again, I'm going to sort of pull from a more recent read, and I'm going to say that the found family in the Hell's Library trilogy is really fun. I enjoy them a lot. I do also really enjoy our sort of core group of characters in the Murderbot Diaries. Again, that's somewhat of a more recent read that I really like. But yeah, I love a found family. There's lots of really good ones out there. What a great prompt to finish this tag. And so that is the Muppet Tag. I may tag some folks down in the description. If you want to do this tag, whether I tag you or not, feel free to do this tag. It's a great tag. I really enjoyed thinking through these prompts and picking out characters and books that fit them, and just thinking a little bit more about the Muppets, because who doesn't want to think about the Muppets? The Muppets are great. So yes, thanks to Gareth and Gavin for creating the tag and tagging me respectively, and that's all I got. Like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.